The public and private sectors teaming up for progress. But here's the problem. These partnerships often blur the line between public accountability and private profit, and usually the taxpayers are the ones who end up holding the bag, which is unsurprising. A public-private partnership, or P3 as some call it, is basically when government hands part of a public project, so we're talking about financing, construction, management, or operations, to a private company. The bargain that they give, or the pitch, is that the private side brings innovation and efficiency. This is something that I can typically agree with. But let's be honest, in these instances, innovation often means less transparency and more complexity that just shields decision makers from public scrutiny. And we've seen this across the country. We've seen it certainly here in Texas. TxDOT's toll road contracts, for instance, that lock in decades of guaranteed revenue for private investors, or city economic development deals that funnel millions of dollars through local corporations outside of normal procurement rules. And even when you look at nonprofits created by cities and other entities to manage parks and convention centers and housing. And these are somehow not subject to open records laws and sometimes even open meetings laws. And they call it a partnership, but I call it a loophole with a logo. And here's where it gets dicey, if not dicey enough already. When public money goes through a private partner, the public's right to know often disappears, or at least gets a little more cloudy. When you look at these public-private partnerships, they can be useful when done right, but too often they become a way to shift the risk off of private investors and onto taxpayers while also moving the decision-making behind closed doors, so there's no one really left to be held accountable. That means less transparency. Taxpayers cannot follow the money as directly as they otherwise would if it's run through an independent local corporation. And then it also means that you have actually less physical accountability because there's no one who you can directly hold responsible when a project overgoes its budget or underperforms expectations. And then there's more long-term costs. Contracts can bind cities for 20 to 50 years with escalating payments indexed to inflation. So in short, there might be a short-term gain, but there's often long-term pain associated with it. But the fix isn't to kill all public-private partnerships. It's to shine a light on them and make them work better for taxpayers. You can apply open records laws to any entity spending public dollars, even if they are quote-unquote private. Publish P3 contracts online, full text, not summaries, so that taxpayers can evaluate them. Mandate independent audits every 2 years for these major projects that they're undertaking. Disclose all lobbyists and donors and contractors tied to city-affiliated nonprofits or management districts that are working with these projects. Because if a project's good for taxpayers, it should be good enough to withstand public scrutiny. And if it can't, then maybe it's not the kind of project that we want our money going towards or our entities engaged in. Texas was built by people who believed in doing big things, but they should be doing these big things out in the open so the public can assess them as they move forward. Because if you can't see who's winning, you also can't really see who's paying at the end of the day. I'm Charles Blaine, and this is Texas Tomorrow. Please like, share, comment, and let us know if there's something going on in your neighborhood that you'd like us to talk about.